Greetings to Inchi Mahadev bin Muhammad and Inchi Abdul Aziz bin Mad Hassan. My name is Marun THEVINDRAN and my metric number is A19A0265. I'm from Group SAL45 and we would like to demonstrate our final year research project title, which is Factors that Influencing Efficiency of the Humanitarian Logistics Supports During Flood Disaster Relief. Introduction. The first chapter will focus on introducing an overview about the study. This chapter will be discussing about the background of the study, problem statement, research question, research objective, the scope of the study, significance of the study, definition of terms, and organization proposal. Background of the study. This section provides background information on humanitarian logistics in world and Malaysia, describing the involvement of humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster. Disasters, catastrophes, crises, and epidemics all have one characteristics in common. They disrupt livelihoods and force people to help one another. During the previous decade, natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, landslides, cyclones, heat waves, floods, and extreme cold weather have impacted over 2.6 billion people. Any disaster can overcome with competent disaster management. Disaster management is the process of planning for and responding to natural catastrophes. Malaysia Disaster Management had made progress in developing early warning system for flooding, earthquakes, and tsunamis. In particular, it has increased its ability to detect and distribute flood alerts throughout a larger portion of the nation. During a disaster, humanitarian logistic organizations are typically dependent on to offer rapid response and recovery. The process of organizing and implementing a system that includes bringing together people, resources, skills, and information in order to assist disaster vulnerable individuals is known as humanitarian logistics. Humanitarian organizations are critical, particularly during disaster relief. They often offer logistical and transportation services such as transporting people to a safe location, transporting injured individuals, sending humanitarian assistance, and giving shelter. Humanitarian logistics commonly involved in a disaster which is flood. Several regions in the Klang Valley, including Hulu Langat, Kuala Langat, Shah Alam, Klang, Hulu Selangor, Kuala Lumpur, Petaling, Bentong, Muntakap, and Temerloh in Pahang, were submerged beneath water as a result of the flood, which happened after 2 days of non-stop torrential rain. Nearly 400,000 people had to be evacuated due to the floods in Malaysia, which involved 50 deaths along in December 2021, which also cost an estimated financially around 6.1 billion ringgit damages. As per Prime Minister Dato Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob in 2021, the National Disaster Management Agency (NADMA) is collaborating with the Social Welfare Department and other organizations to distribute food. Even the Malaysian Armed Forces jumped into action, assisting in the evacuation of flood victims to the relief centers. Throughout a flood disaster, many supporters step forward to help. NGO is the main backer. Depending on whether they serve as a contributor or donor, a collector, or a supplier, NGOs may support a humanitarian mission. Malaysian Red Crescent Society, which is also known as Bulan Sabit Merah Malaysia, took initiative on working to rescue stranded families and provide meals, toiletries, hygiene items, and other necessities to those who have been driven from their home. There are a variety of supporters who were involved in the flood disaster and encountered several hurdles in overcoming the crisis. Due to this, researchers attempts to determine the factors that influencing efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster in Selangor, Malaysia. Problem statement. In Malaysia, the concerns have already been apparent with frequent floods in the denser portions of Kuala Lumpur and Selangor, demonstrating a lack of preparation, inadequate estimative coordination, and insufficient measures to fight the problem's causes such as deforestation and pollution. The humanitarian logistic teams have challenges in handling the delivery of goods like as food, clothing, medication, machinery, and manpower, all of which must be delivered rapidly in order to optimize victim survival rates. Humanitarian help was sometimes delayed owing to unstable roads, restricted access, and weak traffic flow, all of which occur whenever a disaster. Humanitarian logistics in Malaysia is inadequate whenever there are no clear lines of command in organizing the response from higher level of government, and when the local response at the region is insufficient. Additionally, there are 5 key obstacles to handling flood disaster, which is lack of expertise, a lack of necessary power, organizational collaboration, a labor shortage, resources for coordination, insufficient funding, and communication difficulties. Finally, the 4 prime factors, which is collaboration, communication, accessibility, and coordination, were explored by the specialists to have a clear comprehension of the struggle of humanitarian supports during flood disaster in Selangor, Malaysia.
Number 1, for this question, what is the relationship between the collaboration and efficiency of the humanitarian logistic support during flood disaster relief? The number 2, what is the relationship between the communication and the efficiency of the humanitarian logistic support during flood disaster relief? The number 3, what is the relationship between accessibility and efficiency of the humanitarian logistic support during flood disaster relief? Alright, Lastly, the number 4, what is the relationship between the configuration and efficiency of material and logistic support during flood disaster relief? Objective. Number 1, to examine the relationship between collaboration and efficiency of the material and logistic support during flood disaster relief. Number 2, to examine the relationship between communication and efficiency of the material and logistic support during flood disaster relief. Number 3, to examine the relationship between accessibility and efficiency of the material and logistic support during flood disaster relief. Alright, number 4, to examine the relationship between coordination of efficiency of the material and logistic support during flood disaster relief.
Good day to the respected examiner Encik Mahathir bin Muhammad and my dear friends. My name is THARSHINI NEELAMEGAM and metric number A19A0948. Today I am going to present about scope of the study. First, consider the study's population. The number of respondents to be questioned is also limited according to the specific population. As a result, the result only can be generalized to Selangor people in Malaysia. Secondly, the geographical area is also the scope of the study. Selangor State is the scope for the study to be taken. In addition, the data will be done through the utilization of questionnaire as a survey within specific period in Selangor, Malaysia. Next is significance of study. The important to society is this research can provide an overview of the factors that humanitarian logistics support faced during the flood disaster in Selangor, Malaysia. The study also benefit to the common people to understand the struggle that faced by humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster and how they are helping the victims in those situations. Secondly, the importance to government. These findings also assist the authorities in understanding and determining the common issues that faced by humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster and find the effective way to short off those issues without creating impact. This finding also very important and beneficial to Malaysian government. It will also contribute a wide knowledge and information to the accessor of the study without considering the nationality or origin. Third is importance to the future research. As per in future, this research would be a reference for those who would like to do the research about this. Each related factor will prompt the future researcher to understand more regarding in this issue and utilize this study as a reference to identify more information about the factors that influence the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster in Malaysia.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is NATASHA binti ISSAMMUDIN. My metric number A19A0560. Definition of term: humanitarian logistics. Humanitarian logistics is a subset of logistics that specialize in arranging the transportation and warehousing of goods to impact areas and individuals during natural disasters or complicated events. Collaboration. Collaboration is a method through which two or more people work together to finish a job or accomplish a common objective. Interpersonal skills, effective communication, information sharing, and coordination are all required for effective cooperation. Communication. Communication may be wrongly described as the exchange of thoughts, messages, and information among two or more people through a medium in a way that ensures both parties get the message in the way that makes sense to them, or that they come to share that understanding. Accessibility. The idea of accessibility is whether a good or service is usable by everyone, no matter how they come across it. People generate capacity to access desired services and activities collectively. Accessibility. The idea of accessibility is whether a good or service is usable by everyone, no matter how they come across it. People's general capacity to access desired services and activities collectively referred to as opportunities. Coordination. Coordination is described as where two or even more unrelated or competing entities work together to share private data resources, including such joint distribution facilities.
Hi, my name is HANIM binti HASBULLAH. My metric number is A19A0570. I will continue my part, which is organization of the proposal. This chapter had provide an overview of the study. It's described about background of the study, problem statement, research question, research objective, scope of the study, significance of the study, and definition of term and organization of the proposal. It was highlight the factor influencing efficiency of the humanitarian logistics support during flood disaster in Selangor. The next chapter, we will discuss about top to the bottom on every variable and the proposed conceptual framework.
Chapter 2, Literature Review. Introduction. The entire literature review addressed the factors that influencing the efficiency of the humanitarian logistics support during flood disaster relief in Selangor, Malaysia. In this chapter, readers will learn more about the dependent variable, which is efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster relief, and the independent variable is collaboration, communication, accessibility, and coordination. Underpinning theory. The underpinning theory that had been used in this study is resources-based view. The resource-based view is a concept that emphasizes the importance of resources in achieving enhanced film performance. If a resource possessed VRIO characteristics, the resources help the company to obtain and maintain a competitive advantage. A four-part framework called VRIO, which stands for value, rarity, immutability, and organization. In the RBV model, there are two categories of assets, which is tangible assets and intangible assets. The factors that influencing the efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster, which is collaboration, communication, accessibility, and coordination, are considered as the intangible assets. This is because those factors do not have any physical presence but will occur impact to the efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster. Technology is indeed an intangible asset that heavily relies on knowledge, much of which is implicit information. For example, communication and coordination is a factor that more related to technology because both factors can maintain progress if it has standard level of technology. Dependent variable of this study is efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster relief. Governments or authorities, the military, aid agency, donors, and non-governmental organization (NGO) are all participants in humanitarian logistics. In Malaysia, disaster risk management is governed by Directive Number 20, which is administered by the National Disaster Management Agency (NADMA) and established as a prior agency committed to disaster management. NADMA take initiative to provide information regarding flood disaster in advance to aware the related citizens and other humanitarian logistics supporters. Next, Malaysian Armed Force (MAF). Aside from preparation for battle, the MAF plays an equally important secondary purpose. It is also in charge of providing military aid to civil power (MACP). According to International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies in 2020, the Malaysian Army and Navy have dispatched boats as well as heavy machinery such as tractors and trucks to clear the muddy route and convey flood-affected residents to the relief center. NGOs contribute a crucial role during flood disaster in Selangor. A non-governmental organization (NGO) is a non-profit organization and the members are the volunteers. For example, the Malaysian Red Crescent Society raises contribution to assist flood victims in Selangor, particularly in Klang, Shah Alam, and Hulu Langat. NGO seeks help from donors in terms of financially. A donor is someone who donates something that is more valuable to another person or group, usually a charity. Malaysian Flood Relief Fund had collected 76,262 ringgit from 204 donors in 11 months.
The first independent variable is collaboration. Collaboration problems have been noted as a significant barrier in the administration of humanitarian programs. According to the Johor Bahru Civil Defence Force Disaster Operation Representative Captain, collaboration is crucial in order to organize a switch reaction team to deliver relief to the victims at Selangor and Negeri Sembilan. Due to security concern and lack of confidence, there has been relatively little collaboration among the government and non-governmental organizations. Many Selangor citizens confront that donors should collaborate with the NGO instead of government. Due to this kind of issues, there are possibilities where NGO may refuse to collaborate with government in shortening the flood disaster. Abdul Latif Ahmad, Special Duty Minister and Chairman of the National Disaster Management Agency, which called as NADMA, has been criticized by an NGO for neglecting to handle the severe flooding that has affected numerous regions. As per this statement, this kind of dissatisfaction could lead to a humanitarian logistics supporter to not collaborate with another humanitarian logistics supporter during flood disaster. Without waiting for a comment from the National Disaster Management Agency, the Malaysian Armed Force jumped into action on Friday, assisting in the evacuation of flood victims to relief centers as extensive flooding devastated the 5 states over the weekend. This statement shows that Malaysian Armed Force made their own decision to help the victims without collaborating with NADMA or with the other Selangor government. Due to the majority humanitarian logistics supporters have authority to take their own decision, they hesitated to collaborate with other organizations or supporters. Since each humanitarian logistics supports enters a lot of highly sensitive information, it may be challenging for one agency to simply allowing another to view its confidential material without first building sufficient confidence with the other humanitarian logistics supports.
Communication. Any communication problems may result in stakeholders or NGOs being unable to understand how collaboration works, which will lower their satisfaction with humanitarian efforts. The ex-Prime Minister of Malaysia, Ismail Sabri Yaakob, has emphasized the importance of improved agency coordination and communication for the nation's ability to handle future natural disasters. Physical systems such as roads, tower blocks, infrastructure, communication, rivers, terrain, soil, and so on must be able to induce and function under tremendous stress. Otherwise, a city would be practically prone to dangers. Local authorities disregard warnings, poor communication, and unusual rainfall all lead to the failures in handling the enormous floods that ravaged Selangor last month. During the recent flood in Selangor, 343 telecommunication towers providing mobile connection for 2G and 4G services were damaged. Due to communication failure, many people were trapped on key roads, uninformed of the changes that halted traffic and floodwaters, some of which were cut deep.
Accessibility. The idea of accessibility is whether a good or service is usable by everyone, no matter how they come across it. And accessibility was very important to the relief team for prepare and fulfill the victim's needs and wants. Roadway might be viewed as the key component of accessibility. When the road was damaged by flood disaster, the humanitarian logistics support team would encounter difficulties due to the landslide or flood. NGO, Malaysian Army, firefighter, and the relief team faced challenges due to the unavailable roads and unlimited accessibility for transport. The rescue team in Selangor had difficulty in continuing their effort owing to several limits, according to Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob. 7. He further claimed that this obstacle include difficulty for rescue boat entering flooded regions due to the inaccessible pathway. The Malaysian Army was actively involved in assisting flood victims in Selangor. However, owing to the unfamiliarity with this place, it was difficult for them to approach the district without hesitation. Based on Brigadier Gen. Nurul Azril Arifin, Operation Commander of the AIM Force Taman Sri Muda, one of the most difficult problems was operating our asset at the night time. They will lack local knowledge of the local, which is Taman Sri Muda Selangor, and need guides to assist both. This justified that accessibility became the main struggle of humanitarian logistics support during flood disaster relief in Selangor.
Coordination. Coordination can be considered as the process of organizing individual in or organization of that day or can proactive and physically together. Community can meet the scale of complexity of the issue connected with disaster planning and respond by alone. A major problem in humanitarian logistics we also found with the lack coordination with a right might have several negative effects such as efficiency, assistance distribution, the relief of scale results of participants and overcrowding on transportation network, and inflow NGO offload government agency and municipal disaster response system if the efficiency connection with sometimes within the situation. Apart from there are numerous number of people from NGO we are interested in helping people during flood disaster in Selangor. But we have proper coordination, most are individual gathering in the location cause lack of volunteer to help other district in Selangor. As an example, according to Bernama News, Datuk Seri Amruddin Syahari state that Hulu Langat region was discovered to be congested yesterday after many employers and volunteer for gather their NGO and others organization each took this own part of create their own method of providing money for necessity of the victim. As a result, some individuals did not receive enough items, which others received evidence of good.
Hypothesis statement. The first hypothesis is there is no relationship between collaboration and efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster relief. And there is a relationship between collaboration and efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster relief. And the second hypothesis is there is no relationship between communication and efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster relief. And there is a relationship between communication and efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster relief. The third hypothesis is there is no relationship between accessibility and efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster relief, and there is a relationship between accessibility and efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster relief. And the final is there is no relationship between coordination and efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster relief, and there is a relationship between coordination and efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster relief.
Conceptual framework. A conceptual framework shows how the variables should be related to one another. The diagram below shows the relationship between independent variables and dependent variables in the form of conceptual framework.
Summary. To conduct, this chapter has discussed the underplanning theory that will be used in the study. After that, they explain previous study and their discussion. Following up with hypothesis statement that states that influence of the variable on the variable. Lastly, develop the conceptual framework for this study by dependent variable and independent variable.
The 3 research method. 3.1 Introduction. This chapter explains about the research method of the study. This chapter covers the main 9 parts of the research design, which is quantitative. The data collection method, a study population that have been focused on specific region which in Selangor, Malaysia. Then this is follow up the sample size and a sampling technique, which have been used in the research and of research human development. The next part, which measurement of the level, describe more about the section in questionnaire and follow the procedure for data analysis and summary and conclusion. 3.2 Research design. Research design refer a framework of research methodology and procedure choose research to perform a study. Quantitative research of design and quantitative design are the 2 types of the research design. The study component are gathered a logical, comprehensive manner to guarantee of a research will effective to the research problem. That is developed in action plan regarding data collecting, measurement, and analysis. In this study, quantitative research design was used to estimate the relationship between independent variable. This will use a quantitative technique. This is because more objective in studying and understanding the between independent variable and factor influence the efficiency of raw material logistic. Support during flood disaster relief in Selangor, Malaysia.
Data collection method. Data collection can be considered as the process of obtaining data from a pattern source to solve the research problem. Data can be classified into the 2 types, which is the primary data and secondary data. Primary data collection involves gathering information from a living source, such as a person. Primary data collection pure aim to gather information that is as accurate and comprehensive as feasible. Example of a primary data is survey, investigation, questionnaire, focus group, and interview. Primary research include 2 types, which is qualitative and quantitative research. Any data can be measured, counted, quantified, and assigned a numerical value referred to as quantitative data. Quantitative data is the quantitative nature, which descriptive in character and conveyed into word or language rather than numerical value. Result from questionnaire provide the bulk of the study data. This questionnaire will be made available online. Secondary data that has previously been gathered from primary research and it is accessible for scholar or research to utilize in their own study. This is a form of the data which has already been gathered. Book, journal, paper, website, blog, and other example of the secondary data. Study population. The study target demographic was to include the resident of Selangor, Malaysia. According to Department of Statistics Malaysia, the current population of Selangor citizens are 7,091,519 people. The population target for the study is resident of Selangor who are male and female. The target age group is selected because in terms of considering the people who had really involved themselves as humanitarian logistic support to help the victims who suffered during the flood disaster in Selangor, Malaysia.
Sample size. Sample size is referred to as the number of persons that was included in the study to reflect a population. Since the population of Selangor had exceeded the maximum number of population in Craigie and Morgan sample size determination table, the researchers had conducted manual way to determine the sample size by using the formula of Craigie and Morgan. Here is the way of calculation that been conducted to determine the sample size. Based on the outcome of the calculation, the sample size is estimated as 384. Sampling techniques. Sampling is a strategy for choosing certain individuals or a small subset of the population in order to draw conclusion from them statistically and approximate the characteristics of the entire population. There are 2 types of sampling method, which is probability sampling and non-probability sampling. In this study, purposive sampling approach from the non-probability sampling was chosen to fulfill the research goal. Purposive sampling, sometimes referred to as judgmental, selective, or considered as subjective sampling. Researchers in this study established a few criteria in the questionnaire. Because of this sampling techniques is appropriate for the research.
Next is research instrument development. The study found that both quantitative and descriptive methodologies employ questionnaires as their primary research tool. First is questionnaire survey. The questionnaire will be distributed by the researchers to the respondents, which will be the Selangor citizens. It will be distributed via social media networks such as Telegram, Instagram, and WhatsApp. The study will also use a quantitative methodology to quantify the issue. The information gathered from the questionnaire will be provided as quantitative data, typically presented in the form as graph, making it easy for the researcher to analyze and reach conclusion. Secondly, questionnaire design. The questionnaire will be designed in two main languages, which is English and Malay. In this research, the questionnaire will be distributed to 384 respondents. The questionnaire has been expanded to 6 main sections, which is Section A, Section B, Section C, Section D, Section E, and also Section F. The Section A are collecting the demographic data about respondents from Selangor, which consists of gender, age, marital status, and also sector. While Section B designed to gather data about dependent variable, which is efficiency of the humanitarian logistics supports during flood disaster relief. Meanwhile, from Section C to Section F outline the research independent variables, which include collaboration, communication, accessibility, and also coordination. This questionnaire from Section B to F are uses Likert scale measurement. A scale from 1 to 5 is used to express the level of constant. Next is measurement of the variables. In this study, the researcher uses 3 scales of measurement, which is nominal, ordinal, and interval. First of all, nominal scale. In this survey, the nominal scale is categorized in Section A. The nominal scale that used in this survey is gender, marital status, and sector. Secondly, ordinal scale. The Likert scale and agreement scale employed in the study's questionnaire to get respondents' level of agreement with various assertions was utilized. By using the 5-point Likert scale in the questionnaire, respondents were requested to state answer according of every statement of each variable. 5 points in this research, which is ranged from strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and also strongly disagree. Finally, interval scale. Another element that may be assessed on an interval scale is age. As a result, the researcher interval scale was employed to denote the respondents' ages in the study. In Section A, the scale was used.
Procedure data analysis. Data analysis is a procedure that gathers and arranges the data to determine whether to accept or deny the hypothesis. SPSS was used to examine the data for this investigation. The ability to analyze data using methods such as a percentile, variation coefficient, probability test, descriptive analysis, and reliability test makes this program useful. Pilot test. Pilot testing includes a number of procedures that let assess the many phases of the researcher's projects in advance. The researcher may also refer to this as a trial run or preparation to help identify any flaws in plan before start putting it into action. Pilot testing, in contrast, is crucial because it aids in a variety of ways, including the error handling of testing software and procedures, determining whether a product is ready for full-scale implementation, making better resource and time allocation decision, providing an opportunity to evaluate the response of target population to the program, determining the program success, and providing the team with a chance to practice the action they will be used for users testing. To further clarify, the research requires subgroups will be tested in the pilot test. In order to conduct a pilot test, 30 sets of questionnaires are being given out to the intended respondents. Descriptive analysis. It contains and deconstructs voluminous data and makes it more approachable by using techniques like straightforward graphical analysis. Additionally, it enables the researchers to condense a big quantity of data and create a straightforward explanation of the facts the researchers analyze. Furthermore, descriptive analysis entails the creation of tables for measures of central tendency such as the mean, median, and mode, as well as variability measurements such as variance, standard deviation, minimum and maximum variables, skewness, and kurtosis. Durability test. Durability test is in charge of evaluating and determining the validity and reliability of the scale. Researchers can examine the characteristics of the measurement scales and the components that makes up the scales using reliability analysis. The cone-patch alpha reliability test was employed by researchers to demonstrate the suitability of the test and scale. Additionally, it may be used to check the intercorrelation of each variable and when inflation air. Cross-batch alpha is a simple measure for determining the reliability or the internal consistency of a total score. Pearson correlation coefficient. The Pearson correlation coefficient of the use metric for determining a linear relationship. It is a number ranging from -1 to 1 that indicates the direction and strength of a link between two variables. Correlation analysis is extremely effective in determining the functional relationship among two variables. The relationship can often be classified as positive, negative, or zero. A positive relation indicates that two variables are moving in the same direction. whereas a negative correlation indicates that two variables are moving in the one direction. A zero correlation suggests that two variables has no relationship, which is uncommon. Normality test. A normality test determines whether sample data was collected from a standard normal distribution. A regularly distributed sample population is required for several statistical tests, for example, the student's t-test and one-way and two-way ANOVA. They are often tests of a new hypothesis, especially a goodness of a fit test that perhaps the data are chosen from a regular population. In this test, several measures novelty, the very well-known p-value, are utilized to examine the data and determine if its distribution divides considerably from the normal distribution. If indeed the p-value is much less than 0.05, the distribution deviates considerably from the normal distribution. The most prominent methods for testing the normality of continuous data include 9 tests. First, it is Shapiro-Wilk test, while second is the Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. The third test is the skewness, and following with the kurtosis, and fifth and sixth tests are histogram, box plot. Finally, the seventh test is PP plot, and eighth test is QQ plot, and following the ninth test, which is mean width SD. The statistical program SPSS may be used to perform normality tests. Summary. This chapter explains the methodological method used throughout the review. A quantitative approach is used when there is numerical data information in the distributed questionnaire that will be reported and evaluated in Chapter 4 and 5. Every factor was analyzed to test hypotheses with an estimation of builds as per past investigations. Topic to the completion of pre-test obligation. Based on primary data and secondary data relating to the other resources obtained by another study, the questionnaire concept is devised. Data is handled once questionnaire are gathered. The data is analyzed for descriptive and inferential analysis. The findings are presented in detail in Chapter 4.